The two main issues are really housing affordability and transport, and those are linked together. Housing affordability, so everybody, depending on their income, can afford minimum type of housing. And then, very much linked to that is having access to jobs, therefore having a good transport. And the two aspects, like housing affordability and transport are linked together because it's a transport system which defines the type of land which can be developable. It's very dangerous to build housing, cheap housing in very cheap land, which have no access to the labor market. So I think those two things are very important. Now, a city has to do many other things like, remove garbage or maintain, prevent flooding and things like that. But I think those are relatively easy to do compared to housing affordability and transport. Those are the main challenge. On top of it, because you are living on an island and a very beautiful topography with mountain, forest, and everything, it makes, in fact, the aspect of transport and land development more difficult. So I cannot give advice, only to look very carefully, in particular to the informal sector. A lot of houses are developed informally, and I think that it's a bit big. It's informal a bit because of regulations which are unaffordable. The people who are already in the city and live well in the city do not want any change, and so very often they ask for regulation, not because a specific problem, but just to prevent change. It is not enough to say we want a sustainable city, we want a livable city, we want a smart city. This, everybody can say that, and everybody agree with that. What is important is to measure progress. For instance, if you are talking about sustainability, are you talking about carbon emission? Are you talking about, for instance, nature, diversity? And you should have quantitative indicators who show what is your objective in this sense. And for instance, say for carbon emission, if this is your interest, you should have an objective. And how do you manage this objective? Again, those indicators are in my book. It's a very technical subject. I develop them in detail at the end of my book. Very often, municipalities all over the world, define the amount of money they are going to spend on the environment or on transport. They say, this year we are going to spend $100 million on transport. But so they monitor progress just by the amount of money they have spent, where in fact, spending money is probably necessary, but it doesn't guarantee any success. It might have absolutely no impact at all. So for every time you have a budget, you have a number of indicators. The first is input, the amount of money you spend. After that is output. That means, are you going to, for instance, if we talk about transport, are you going to buy new buses, train new drivers? Then after that is impact. That means those buses are going to run every 10 minutes on this road or this road. But the final, this is the outcome, and the final is impact. If you develop those buses, is to reduce the commuting time of communities. So you will have to say, in this area, people to get to the center of city, now they take 1 hour. And thanks to our investment, we project that they will take only, let's say, 40 minutes. And then you see 40 minutes in 5 years, for instance. And that's the type of, if you do not have those indicators, you are going to spend money, and people will say, spending money on transport is a good thing. But eventually, it may not be very effective. Not because of corruption or something like that, just because it's difficult to achieve your objective. And the objective, again, is not to bring new buses in the city. The objective is to reduce the transport time. Mm-hmm. And that's not quite the same thing as having more buses.